In the 25th year of our passing over, in the beginning of the year, in the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year, after that the city was smitten, in the same day the hand of the Lord was made on me, and he brought me thither, in the revelations of God, and he brought me into the land of Israel, and he let me down on a full high hill, on which was the building of a city going to the south, and he led me in thither, and lo, a man, whose likeness was the likeness of brass, and a cord of flax was in his hand, and a reed of measure in his hand. Forsooth he stood in the gate, and the same man spake to me, Thou son of man, see with thine eyes, and hear with thine ears, and set thine heart on all things which I shall show to thee. For thou art brought hither, that those it be showed to thee. Tell thou all things which thou seest to the house of Israel. And lo, a wall without forth, in the compass of the house of the Lord on each side, and in the hand of the man was a reed of measure 6 cubits and a span, that is, an handbreadth. And he meted the breadth of the building with 1 reed, and the highness by 1 reed. And he came to the gate that beheld the way of the east, and he ascended by degrees of it, and he meted the lintel of the gate by 1 reed, the breadth, that is, 1 lintel by 1 reed in breadth. And he meted 1 little chamber by 1 reed in length, and by 1 reed in breadth, and 5 cubits betwixt the little chambers. And he meted the lintel of the gate beside the porch of the gate within by 1 reed. And he meted the porch of the gate of 8 cubits, and the post thereof by 2 cubits. Swiftly the porch of the gate was within. Certainly the chambers of the gate at the way of the east were 3 on this side and 3 on that side, 1 measure of 3, and 1 measure of the post on either side. And he meted the breadth of the lintel of the gate of 10 cubits, and the length of the gate of 13 cubits. And he meted a margin of 1 cubit before the chambers, and 1 cubit was the end on each side. Forsooth the chambers were of 6 cubits on this side and on that side. And he meted the gate from the roof of the chamber till to the roof thereof, the breadth of 25 cubits, a door against a door. And he made posts by 60 cubits, and at the post a 4 yard of the gate on each side by compass. And before the face of the gate that stretcheth forth till to the face of the porch of the inner gate, he meted 50 cubits. And he meted windows, narrow without and large within, in the chambers, and posts of these that were within the gate on each side by compass. Swiftly in like manner also windows were in the porches by compass within, and a painture of palm trees was engraved before the posts. And he led me out to the outermost 4 yard, and lo, treasuries, and a pavement arrayed with stone in the 4 yard by compass. 30 treasuries were in the compass of the pavement, and the pavement was beneath in the front of the gates, by the length of the gates. And he meted the breadth from the face of the lower gate till to the front of the inner 4 yard, without forth, 100 cubits at the east and at the north. And he meted, both in length and in breadth, the gate that beheld the way of the north, of the outermost 4 yard. And he meted the chambers thereof, 3 on this side and 3 on that side, and the posts thereof, and the porch thereof, by the measure of the former gate, the length thereof of 50 cubits, and the breadth thereof of 25 cubits. Swiftly the windows thereof, and the porch, and the engravings, were by the measure of the gate that beheld to the east, and the ascending thereof was of 7 degrees, and a porch was before it. And the gate of the inner 4 yard was against the gate of the north, and against the east side. And he meted from the gate till to the gate 100 cubits. And he led me out of the way of the south, and lo, the gate that beheld to the south. And he meted the posts thereof, and the porch thereof, by the former measures, and the windows thereof, and the porch in compass, as other windows, the length of 50 cubits, and the breadth of 25 cubits. And by 7 degrees men ascended to it, and a porch was before the gates thereof, and palm trees were engraved, one in this side, and another in that side, in the posts thereof. And the gate of the inner 4 yard was in the way of the south, and he meted from the gate till to the gate in the way of the south, 100 cubits. And he led me into the inner 4 yard, to the south gate, and he meted the gate by the former measures, the chambers thereof, and the posts thereof, and a porch thereof by the same measures. And he meted the windows thereof, and the porch thereof in compass, 50 cubits of length, and 25 cubits of breadth. And he meted the porch by compass, the length of 25 cubits, and the breadth thereof of 25 cubits, of 5 cubits. And the porch thereof was to the outermost foreyard, and the palm trees thereof in the post, and 8 degrees were, by which men ascended through it. And he led me into the inner foreyard, by the east way, and he meted the gate by the former measures, the chambers thereof, and the posts thereof, and the porches thereof, as above. And he meted the windows thereof, and the porches thereof in compass, the length of 50 cubits, and the breadth of 25 cubits, and the porch thereof, that is, of the outermost foreyard, and palm trees engraved in the posts thereof, on this side and on that side, and in 8 degrees was the ascending thereof. And he led me into the gate that beheld to the north, and he meted by the former measures, the chambers thereof, and the posts thereof, and the porch thereof, and the windows thereof by compass, the length of 50 cubits, and the breadth of 25 cubits. The porch thereof beheld to the outermost foreyard, and the engraving of palm trees was in the posts thereof, on this side and on that side, and in 8 degrees was the ascending thereof. And by all chambers a door was in the posts of the gate, and there they washed burnt sacrifice. And in the porch of the gate were 2 boards on this side, and 2 boards on that side, that burnt sacrifice be offered on those, both for sin and for trespass. And at the outermost side, which ascendeth to the door of the gate that goeth to the north, were 2 boards. And at the t'other side, before the porch of the gate, were 2 boards. 4 boards on this side, and 4 boards on that side. By the sides of the gate were 8 boards, on which they offered the sacrifices. For sith 4 boards to burnt sacrifice were builded of square stones, in the length of 1 cubit and an half, and in the breadth of 1 cubit and an half, and in the height of 1 cubit, on which boards they shall set vessels, in which burnt sacrifice and slain sacrifice is offered. And the brinks of the boards be of an handbreadth, and be bowed again within by compass. For sooth on the boards were fleshes of offering, and without the inner gate were chambers of chanters, in the inner foreyard that was in the side of the gate beholding to the north. And the faces of those were against the south way, one of the side of the east gate that beheld to the way of the north. And he said to me, this chamber that beholdeth the south way is of the priests that wake in the keepings of the temple. Soothly the chamber that beholdeth to the way of the north shall be of the priests that wake to the service of the altar. These be the sons of Zadok, which of the sons of Levi nigh to the Lord, for to minister to him. And he meted the foreyard, the length of 100 cubits, and the breadth of 100 cubits, by square. And the altar was before the face of the temple. And he led me into the porch of the temple, and he meted the porch by 5 cubits on this side, and 5 cubits on that side. And he meted the breadth of the gate of 3 cubits on this side, and of 3 cubits on that side. But he meted the length of the porch of 20 cubits, and the breadth of 11 cubits. And by 8 degrees men ascended to it, and pillars were in the post, one on this side and another on that side.